Welcome to the J-Train Podcast. This is J-Train Jared Freid coming to you live from the quarantine cabin on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. We are here Mondays and Thursdays with your emails, your stories, your questions. I say it every episode. Let me say it again. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you. That's how it all works. Thank you for telling a friend. Oh, do I love when you tell a friend, a coworker, a brother, a sister, a mama, a papa, anyone with ears, I'll take them. It feels so good. Listen, I consider that payment. That's currency to me. A couple extra ears, that's how I pay for things on the street. A couple ears for your troubles. That's what I want. Couple of ears for my troubles. A couple of lobes for your labor. That's right. That's all I want. Just a couple of lobes for my labor. And of course, you can support the sponsors. You can make it your Instagram story. Tag a bitch, tag a bitch, tag a bitch, tag a bitch, 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 tag a bitch, tag a bitch, tag a bitch, 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 tag a 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 bitch. Rate, review, subscribe. That's how you do it. And if you're listening to this show and you want a little bit of a change up, patreon.com/Jared Freid, patreon.com/Jared Freid, $5 a month. That's for the price of a cup of coffee. $5 a month gets you 3 extra podcasts a week. I do Luxury Lounge. I do one more email. It's a longer email that I wouldn't have done on the show. And then I do Coffee with J-Train, which is me just basically like spilling my guts every Sunday. So these are the extras you would get. I'm doing live shows. I'm coming to your town. Whoo! I'm doing a little more traveling. We're getting back to normalcy. We're figuring it out. Socially distanced shows. JaredFreid.com, 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 Providence, Raleigh, Kansas City, Tacoma. It's all happening. DC, baby. We're not DC. Hopefully DC, December. Dallas. Very excited about today's guest. New to the podcast, hilarious comic, fantastic. I love everything this guy does. I'm just a huge fan. Joe Dombrowski, thank you for coming on.
I have to start by saying this. I've never done this on a podcast before, but hi, Dad. My God. My dad is a Jared Freid fan through and through, so I know he knows that I'm coming on your podcast today, and he's like, "When's it come out? When's it come out?" And so he's going to be listening. So what up, Papa?
Hi, Mr. Dombrowski. Good to let people know, I just went on Joe's podcast, and I'm sure it's either out or coming out. We talked a little bit about how I had met your dad randomly, and just the way comedy is both a large and a small world at the same time. It feels like everyone does this, and then all of a sudden you get an older man comes up to you and goes, "Hey, my son does this," and you're like, "Oh, we'll see." And then you look him up and you're like, "Oh, wow, he's fantastic." And, now we have fallen into one another like, a few times. And this has been great. It's such a nice history now.
I love it. It's great. I think you met my dad at his the other place that he pays rent to, the bar. So that worked out well.
Yeah, he was having a couple of drinks. It was, you know where it was? Moxie Hotel. That's where it was.
Because they were staying there. They were staying at the Moxie Hotel. And I was staying on the street.
And I wasn't doing Laugh Boston. We talked about it on the last podcast.
Yeah.
I was doing my podcast show, the U Up podcast. The other one, we were doing live shows, and I was talking, I think, with someone that was working on the show, like one of the the producers, and he came over, and he was having a drink, but because also Moxie, they give you like a free cocktail as you walk in the door. Perfect place for a guy who likes giving money to the bar to go. And it was in the theater district. I remember all of this, and it was
kismet, Jared. It was supposed to happen.
Legitimately. So, but I want people to go follow you. You have a podcast yourself. I have just recently a guest on called Social Studies. Social Studies. We had a good time. I had a great time. It was just
I had a great time too.
Us talking Bachelor. It was great.
Thanks for coming on.
Of course. And you are on all social media at Mr. D ×3. I want everyone to go follow you. I want everyone to get involved with what you're doing. You have a very large audience, and again, Social Studies is the name of the podcast. Mr. D ×3. Can you explain to the listeners kind of where you can? This is all teacher related, right?
A little bit. So Mr. D times 3, Mr. D, you get the sense of a teacher. Social studies, the podcast where I study being social by being social. You get the teacher vibe. It's because I was an elementary school teacher for 10 years.
You were what grade? What was that like?
So I've taught everything from 3rd grade to 6th grade. And if I was to just like very frankly tell you how it was the reason for my crow's feet, gray hair, and receding hairline.
Is it? Listen. This is one of those jobs, being a teacher, being a grade school teacher, where we all just have to say the things that we're taught to say. Thank you so much, heroes. Like, which we all mean, but I don't think we ever with those like thoughts and prayers, with these like these stock footage lines. I never really I know people who are teachers, but you never it's like when you meet a nurse and they're like, here's what my job actually is. What would you say like the job of being a teacher? What is kind of the thing people don't talk about or wouldn't know?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, it's the most rewarding thing in the world. It really is. For the teacher who are elementary schools teachers, you don't get it right away. But now, like my first couple classes ever are like in college, and they're finding me online and they're writing me and telling me all this shit that I don't remember. And they're like, "You changed my life, Mr. D." And I'm like, yeah. And then you just cry. It's crazy. But the other thing about it too is teaching is extremely difficult. It takes a very certain type of person. It's not.
Is it physically difficult or mentally difficult?
My God, it is difficult as any definition the word has. We make more split decisions than a brain surgeon, right? Like you got to be on it. The reason I can do stand-up the way that I do is because I had 10 years of 39-year-old hecklers in front of me for 5 hours a day. And then I tackle in the club. I'm like, you don't got shit. Wait till you hear Kamari's mouth. He just ripped me apart. And I couldn't say anything back. Like that.
Now you've been released. You're like a wild animal that's been released on the people that you would yell at you now. This is like you've been training.
Now, let me tell you this, though. The cool thing about teaching, a lot of people don't know this about me, but teachers are, what's the word? Poor. Okay. So the majority of teachers, especially if you're in your first 1 to 5 years, work 2nd or 3rd jobs. So I was a stand-up comic, and I was going and hustling, working these gigs, doing some corporates, doing this and that to collect extra money so I could fill up my gas tank to go to work the next day.
So I sorry to interrupt you. I have a question about that. What got you into? You were just doing it because you love comedy. Like you started. Where did you start?
My very first gig, I was 8 years old, and it was my 3rd grade talent show, and I was a stand-up comic. And then every time shit would come out, like the next year they'd be like, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I was like, "I want to be a stand-up." And people are like, "Who the fuck is this kid?"
Yeah,
nobody says that, but I did. And then went into college. I'm in college. I'm fucking around a little bit. I'm doing a little bit of like open mic-y things at the sorority houses and stuff. I joined an improv troupe in college and really started to, get well-rounded in comedy. And then I graduated and was a teacher. And I was like, well, if I keep doing this, I can make a little bit of money doing these gigs. So then just build and build and build.
So you were, so you started in college, like toying with it and just like, as a fun activity while getting your teaching degree.
Yes. Because I
this
knew
makes sense.
There were two ways that I could go, and I'm not knocking anybody's journey by any means, but I knew that I could either.
This is different than the normal journey. I would have to say this is, and this isn't a comedy podcast, but we have stand-up comics on all the time. And this is the majority of the guests are stand-ups, and so usually the journey is start in smaller, fun city, and then move to New York or LA after you have 5 minutes of material, and then figure it out from there. And this is what city were you teaching in? Where
Detroit.
were you in Detroit?
I'm from Detroit.
And you're doing stand up around the Detroit area. There's a scene there, I'm assuming.
Yep, I'm doing stand up. I was doing sketch I was doing a little bit of improv too. I was really just like consuming comedy in any ways that I could. And the comedy scene in Detroit is small but mighty. It's gritty. But once you kind of establish yourself as one of the heavy hitters, people in the city start to like recognize you and
you start to get paid. That's that. And what people don't understand, like, you know, I'm from outside of Boston, but I started in New York. New York is a really hard place to get paid because there's just so many comics, and you have a lot of comics, especially from the Boston area, that they end up making money, you know, early on and start making a living doing comedy. And it's like, for them to come, you would wonder, like, there's so many great comics in Boston. A lot of them don't move because they're like, I'm making this much money. If I move, I have to fill that nut, you know? So this is interesting where you're teaching, you're doing it in Detroit, you're getting bigger and bigger there. You're able to get like corporate gigs, which are hard to come by in any scenario. And this is a totally different road than the one I've become accustomed to hearing about.
But it took a turn for a minute too. So I was just kind of like, you know, I can't tell you that I was making more than $200 to $300 a month on comedy, and that's due when I'm like working every weekend. You know what I mean?
I mean, the money isn't big, but you're working. That is nice.
Too, where my very first salary, sadly, was $30,000 a year. Now that's before taking out taxes and union dues and health insurance and everything. So I'm literally like, my very first couple paychecks, I showed my mom and I was like, I think this is wrong. There's only 3 numbers, and she just laughed at me and she was like, this is such a. So I was like, fuck, how am I going to do this? So that extra $300 or $400 a month was really, you know, paying groceries, putting gas in my car, doing really important stuff. So I was sort of really valuing comedy and how it brought shit back to me.
Interesting, yeah.
But then I started elementary school, right? It's a fucking content powerhouse, dude. Like a content powerhouse.
I mean, there's a reason, and not to bring up a disgraced comic, but there's a reason Bill Cosby did Kids Say the Darndest Things.
It never stops.
It's all fresh material. It's always funny. It's always cute. There's relatable themes there.
Lots.
You know, where like the kid doesn't understand something we all understand. Yeah, this is absolutely. So are you taping things? Are you doing bits there?
So I would do. Oh God, I got 2 parts to this story. All right.
Okay.
So I was very hush about my comedy.
Well, this is a big thing too. You meet people with like real jobs, like being a teacher, being a doctor. This is kind of their like Batman and, you know,
moonlighting.
Well, yeah, they're like doing Superman and Clark Kent. Like this is like put on the cape for the show, and then they're like at the Daily Bugle during the day. Yeah, I understand this.
Yep, that was me 100%, because like as a teacher, sadly, and I'm trying to break this mold for teachers now too, is that you have to like live a very certain life and portray yourself a very certain way in and outside of the classroom, which I think is unrealistic and bullshit, and sets an unreal expectation of what adults are to the kids. Moving on.
I think that's absolutely, and especially now where it's like you can't hide. If you want to have they can find you on social media. It's like game over. Like, what do you have to do? You have to hide your rest of your life like being a normal person? You know, within reason, you know. So
I'm hiding 2 things. I'm hiding comedy, and I'm not really out in the classroom. Like in my life I am, but not really in the classroom. So it was fucking crazy.
So I have a question about that.
Please.
Is there, I guess, like, you know,
you're not going to offend me. Just go for it.
I'm not looking. I'm wondering. I'm not thinking about it being offensive, but like don't ask, don't tell in the military. Is it that way with teaching?
When I started, it was very much that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because you hear that and you're like I'm trying to think back. Like, I don't even know if I knew like was even thinking that way. That's just the teacher. But maybe I might have been. You know, I don't know.
It cuts you up.
It does?
Yeah. Because like I would like be living the lie in my classroom, and then I would go to like the next teacher's classroom, and they've got pictures of their husband, wife, and kids all over their desk, and I have like a tiny microscopic picture of me and my partner like in a desk drawer taped to the bottom, and I'm just kind of like, but that eventually faded. But
Sure.
This is how.
Okay, go for it.
So I'm using the stories and I'm taking them on stage Like it happened in the classroom. I'd write a set. I'd try it. It would work, blah, blah, blah. And then one night I go to perform and I walk out on stage and there's a table of parents of students in my class who I didn't know.
Oh my God.
And I looked at myself and I'm doing shit about literally your fucking kid. I changed the name, but this is about your kid and about the time I was on Grindr and almost died. Like, these are the things I'm talking about. So I told myself, I'm like, this works for audiences. I'm either going to change it right now and bomb, or I'm going to stick to what I know works and see what happens. And I was like, just do it.
Yeah.
And I did it and they loved it. They loved it. And the one dad came over to me. He's like, I know you were talking about my kid. That fucking asshole. He's giving the babysitter a run for her money right now. Like they loved it. This
is perfect. This is like a movie.
Right.
Okay. There you go. Now we're going to start writing. Okay.
So then it infiltrates my school. And the next weekend they come back with another family of kids who are in my class.
Yeah, so they're like, you gotta go. He's talking about our kids. Yeah.
Right. Then my staff they find out about it, and the staff that I work with, they put together a little night out, and they come to the show. Then my fucking boss comes. And
is this the principal?
This is the principal.
Okay.
This is the principal.
Yeah.
And at the time, I hadn't really found my voice yet. I was in the works of doing it, and I made a really crude joke that had something to do along the lines with the lyrics of WAP before WAP came out. And I was shitting myself because I said it. I probably took a couple shots before and I said it, and I went to work the next Monday and I was like, fuck. And she came in my room before school started and she shut the door behind me and I was like, this is it. You're fired. You're done. And she said, I needed that more than you know, and you got it. She's like, you got it. And she's like, I love it. She's like, I absolutely love it. And they must have come, Jared, I'm not shitting you. They must have come to 10, 15 shows that school year.
Well, that's the thing about, and you know this from doing stand-up, and I know this, the people that come to shows and they're the best audiences are the people with the hardest jobs, are the nurses and the teachers and the people that are like, I just need to laugh at stupid shit and wrong shit and the stuff I'm not allowed to say, while being a principal, and like and that's that makes you feel good. That's a rewarding thing too. That's from comedy, that in the same way that's probably rewarding to get the call from the kid who's like 20 now and going to college, right?
Yep. And then after that, like having that conversation was very important for my career because she kind of instilled in me that like I had thought people's perceptions of me being a teacher and doing comedy were going to be one thing, and here they were actually the exact opposite, and I was being supported. So then I doubled down and I just went balls to the walls, and I was doing it. I was making videos now, and I was doing it.
So where does the audience come from? Like, what video? Was there one video that you were like, because
do you know the answer to this? Do you know the answer to this?
No, I don't know the answer to this.
Okay.
So I'm legitimately asking because to find an audience while being a teacher, and now you're in Seattle and being in Detroit, like, and this is so the 2020 story of making it in comedy. Like, there's a lot of people like I'm included in that group. I'm on Instagram. I didn't get a following because I was on TV every week. I know people who are on TV every week, and to even have people recognize me is like crazy.
Blows my mind.
It blows my mind that people even listen to this podcast. And so I think of you because like you're to me, like, it's actually an inspiration for like, hey, you can go live a life somewhere else in a different way and have a career. That's an amazing thing.
Yes. So at this point in the game, I had a small but mighty strong local audience in Detroit. It wasn't uncommon to have regulars who would come to the Joe show.
But I do believe that the world today, you need to niche out You got to start with your crew, and then they have to be your biggest defense. Just like I say at the beginning of this podcast, like, hey, let people know. You find your audience, whether it be from, like, me yelling at The Bachelor. They come in from The Bachelor, and then they go, we trust you to be funny in whatever way you're going to be funny because I love this one thing you do. So I understand that.
So that's what happened. And, but then I knew I'm not getting booked outside of the city. If I go anywhere else, I'm doing mics again, which whatever. But so then I started doing the videos, and the videos were really hitting, and I would see that they would go outside of Detroit, and I'd be like, okay. So then I did a video where you may have seen it. I played a prank spelling test on my students where I made up fake words.
Okay.
For April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
So I made up a bunch of bullshit and gave it definitions. Like some of the words were like Blorski. I lost my Blorski at the carnival, and just like asinine shit.
Sure.
Their reactions were just amazing. And it was filmed on just me, but the kids are in the background saying shit like, these are Chinese words. And just shit that blew up. So I woke up the next morning, it had 20 million views.
20 million.
20 million.
That's insane.
And I kind of had an inkling because I went out to dinner with a friend that night. And while we were at dinner, I had a childhood friend who I hadn't seen in a few years who moved to Tennessee. She called me during dinner, and I was like, this is weird. I should answer. And she's like, you're on the news in Nashville right now? And I was what the fuck? Didn't think of it. 20 million views the next day. Then it's the day before spring break. I leave to go to Orlando with my family for a family reunion. I get off the plane. My phone freezes because it's going so crazy. And I check one message, and it's the Ellen DeGeneres show. And,
oh, my God.
And,
really?
Yes.
I mean, this is what everyone tells someone who does comedy. Every mom or aunt, no, they'll go, not to disagree with you. They do say you never know. But every mom or aunt I've had said to me, send it to Ellen.
Oh, yeah.
You got to send it to Ellen. Yeah. So she picks it up.
She picks it up. They invite me on the show. It's amazing.
Come on. This is amazing.
So I'm going to give you a little back tea here, too.
Sure.
So they invite me on the show, and they know I'm a comic. And they say to me, we know you're a comic, but we're painting the picture of you as a teacher. This isn't your last comic standing audition. Be your normal, funny self, but we're not going to talk about comedy. And I'm like, hey, I'm just fucking happy to be here.
I mean, for the people at home, the people listening, this is inside baseball a little bit. This is like a behind the curtains type of thing, where it's like you have a producer come up to you before any show you go on. Like I've been on the Today Show. I've done like the Guys Tell All. Very different than this. But I'm saying someone comes up to you and preps you and says, like, here's how it's gonna go. If you go outside of that,
you're never coming back.
You're never coming back. It's not going to go as well. It's not going to be, we need you. And again, what they're saying to you, we want you to be the teacher. This is how, and if you play ball, this is how your viral story goes viral again.
Right. And so I was kind of like, okay, I can roll with this because I know people are going to see this and they're going to go back to my pages and they're going to find my shit. Ellen, I'm fucking on Ellen. Like, again, whatever you want. Whatever you want.
If they trust you for this. And also, this is the thing where, like, a lot of stand-up comics will be like, oh, that's an internet person. I get that shit. You're an internet person. But I hate that shit because it's like, well, no, you are a stand-up comic who is working in the weight room, in the gym, punching the bag every day, and then this other thing is what gets people to find you who's already working on the thing. Like, I always said, like, I was like, during the day, I'm putting my name out to the world, and at night, I'm going in the gym and I'm going to work on it for when the time comes that the world will come to my shows. You're living this example that I've been preaching to myself myself for all these years. If they find the podcast, they will search through and see your Instagram and then say, I gotta see that guy on stage. So this is all.
Yes.
This is like this is giving me chills hearing your story.
Well, wait for this. So they tell me that, and then they say, hey, Ellen's really busy. She's got a lot going on. So if, when the cameras are off, if she just leaves you in the chair and goes to get her makeup touched up or grabs a cup of coffee, don't be offended like that. She's just got a lot to do. This is the third show we filmed today, or second show we filmed today. Just be patient with that. And I was like, hey, no problem. I'm cool.
Here to play.
We start filming. It's filming. They cut to a commercial. She stays in her seat. She turns to me and goes, so I heard you're a comic. And I was like, yeah. And she goes, you're really, really funny. And I was like, well, thank you. And she goes, no, I don't think you understand. You're really funny. You need to do something with that. Boom! Back on the air. I'm like, you can see my face in the clip. I'm like.
Also, I mean, Ellen's name, to tell people at home, like, Ellen's been, dragged a little bit lately, a lot of it, but that doesn't take away from Ellen is one of the best comedians of all time. Like she's on the list. She is on the list of like great stand-up comics. She knows stand-up comedy. She's been on
the floor.
I mean, people nowadays, they can't separate like what story they've heard about a certain story from the talent. The talent, I don't know Ellen personally, you do. I'm just saying the talent, she is one of the most talented comics of all time. So for her to say that is like the compliment of the century.
It was unbelievable. And it like replays to me all the time. Like I'll go and do a show and I'll like hear her saying it and see her saying it in my head. And then I'll just go like crush a set. Cause I'm like this person who like you grew up on their comedy when they were a stand-up, who also was one of the first like very publicly out comics, like just so inspiring to me on so many levels, told you that you need to do something with that, do something with that. So I go home, I'm shitting my pants, I kick my ass and drive. I have about 30 minutes of my hour written and I'm like, I'm going to keep going. Get a call. They want me on again. And I accept and I go back on the show. Come to find out this time, it was her choice. The producers didn't do it. She wanted me back on again. She wanted to touch base. Same thing. We're painting you as the teacher. We just want to do a recap. She says it again. What have you been up to? Comedy going well? Still sticking with it? Blah, blah. I'm like, yeah. Okay. Episode ends, Jared. Fucking buckle up, buddy.
Okay.
A year goes by, and I don't hear shit. Ellen,
I mean, hold on. Before we get to this part, are your videos like from Ellen, like those are popping off? You're getting.
I'm riding the wave.
You're right. Like this whole year, you're getting Ellen.
People are finding
audience runoff. The she is basically you're on the follower paycheck from her, right? Is this?
Yep. Okay. Now I have a credit. So for the first time ever, I'm doing shows and they're saying Joe Dombrowski from the Ellen DeGeneres show. And I'm like shitting my pants.
And you're a reoccurring character on the show. Yeah.
I'm reoccurring. I'm getting booked. Clubs are calling. I'm just like kind of doing it. It's feeling really cool. Still really small, but feeling really cool.
Amazing.
The following is just even a year later, I'm telling you, I'm getting like 10,000 followers a month. Like it's just going.
Unbelievable. Okay.
A year later, it starts.
There's a reason that women say send it to Ellen. Yeah. No,
100%. A year later, it calms down a little bit. I'm still teaching full time because I'm just scared. You know what I mean?
Of course. It's a huge leap.
Right. I'm living in Seattle now, and Ellen DeGeneres is filming her special, Relatable, down the street from my apartment.
I didn't know she taped it in Seattle. Okay.
I waited 75 minutes in line, got a ticket, went to the show. Jared, listen. I go to the show. She's in the audience. She wraps the set. She comes back out on stage to do this question and answer bit. I'm getting ready to leave.
Yeah.
She looks out and goes, hey, I know you.
Come on. Hey, I know you.
And they give me a mic. And,
Stop it. So, because they're doing question and answers, so there's a mic floating around the crowd, and this is after the taping.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm like, hey, Ellen, I don't know if you remember me. I was on a couple seasons. She's like, yeah, I totally remember. She's like, tell everybody what you did. So I was like, I was on Ellen last season. I did this spelling test. She had me on, and she's like, that's fantastic. What have you been up to? And I'm like, Ellen, I just want to let you know I just finalized the first 5 cities of my first tour with my hour, and I wanted to say thank you. And she's like, that's incredible. She's like, that is truly incredible.
Oh.
You deserve it. She's like, I wish you the best. I hope it goes well. And then they start doing a little Q&A with other people. She's like, yes. I go to work the next day. The show calls me, and they're like, hey, we heard you met Ellen. She was super excited. When's your hour? What cities are you performing in LA? When can we see it? Can you send us a tape? And I'm sitting here like,
oh my God.
I'm like, they're going to produce my special. They're going to produce my special.
Yeah.
Send him the tape. Never hear from him.
Okay.
Still haven't heard from him, but I'm still so fucking grateful. She's got this narrative right now.
So that's what I want to ask.
Experience.
But that's what I wanted to ask you about. Like, you hear all these things of people who claim that she's not a nice person. I guess that's kind of the overarching storyline, I guess, which, okay, that's an opinion. You know, like, this is one of those things where it's like, she doesn't have to do any of those things. She doesn't have to remember you. She doesn't. No. And I do think stand-up comics have a lot of, like, there's a familial thing with stand-up comics. I do think that, like, again, like, this version of, like, hey, I took a look at your video, like any of us would do. Like, oh, you're going to be on my show? Let me go check them out a little bit. Like, and then they go, wow, this is like, and she's of another generation. She probably doesn't get on stage a lot. She probably, as a stand-up, like, great, so to speak, she's probably like, man, look at, he's in shape. He's in stand-up shape. Like, she's probably a little jealous of, like, you getting on stage and getting, again, we could all be jealous of Ellen. She's got billions of dollars, but, like, she's jealous of a lifestyle that you're doing. Like, this is amazing. I just think it's like, you never know the whole story.
Yeah. And I owe a lot of what I have right now to her allowing me to share the screen with her. And, like, you never know. Young comics always say, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? I'm like, you're not doing anything wrong. Just be yourself, and you never know who's watching. The end. That's
it. And keep working. I mean, like, that is like, but that's a lesson for anybody listening in anything they're doing. Like, keep your head down, keep working, and be honest. Like, there was no point in yours where you were, like, looking for an angle. You were never looking for a shortcut. Like, I think that's an amazing story. Oh my God. Like, I'm like,
thank you.
For Ellen to just go, I know you, I see you, I remember you, and that's like an amazing thing. I love that. Wild.
Still shit my pants over it. Yeah.
Well, I hope the audience enjoyed that story as much as I did, because I really loved hearing every minute of that. But we're going to do some emails. You ready?
Oh, let's fucking do it, man.
We are sponsored, people. The J-Train podcast is brought to you by Feels CBD. Listen, there's a lot more unknown out there. I am feeling anxiety more than I have in my entire life. I am sure I am not alone. It's an anxious world. It's an unstable world. It is an unknown world. The future has a lot of ifs to it. So right now, you're probably feeling a lot like me, and you're feeling a little on edge. And I have to say, Feel CBD has been very helpful for me. It is the perfect thing to help me mellow out, especially, I notice it the most on a Monday. Because on Mondays, I'd usually be like, I got to get my life together. I got to write out my list. I got to get going. And I've been using Feels for like probably since they started sponsoring the podcast. Because at first I was a hater. I was like, I don't know. What do you like? Come on, CBD. How much could it help? And, you know, they started sponsoring. I was like, I'll give it a shot. And it just mellows you out, puts you in the zone, makes you a little less of that edge on a Monday morning. And it's premium CBD, and it's delivered directly to your doorstep. If you've never tried CBD before, I'm going to demystify it for you. It will not get you high. It just makes you feel a little bit more relaxed and nothing more. Yes, that's exactly. Exactly it. There's no high hangover addiction. Feels gets to work fast. Just put a few drops under your tongue and boom, you'll be feeling the difference within minutes. If you've never tried CBD and are a little nervous, Feels is the best place to start. I was unsure but like how much to take, but it makes the dosage very clear on the packaging. I recommend starting with the lowest dose and working your way up until you feel right. And if you're not sure, they'll hold your hand. They have a hotline. This is my favorite part about Feels. They have a hotline. If a company's not doing the right things, they have 7,000 numbers to call, and you got to press 1, press 2, press 3, press 4. Oh, and then you leave a message, and maybe we'll get back to you. That's not Feels. They have a hotline with real humans you can call anytime. Once you add CBD to your life, you're going to want to make it a regular part. I have done that. I have called up Feels for more every month. So sign up with Feels so you get it delivered every month. You'll save money on every order. Feels helps me feel my best, and it can help you too. This is special for my listeners. If you become a member today by going to feels.com/JTrain, you'll get 50% off your first order with free shipping. That's FEALS.com/JTrain to become a member and get 50% automatically taken off your first order with free shipping. One more time, feels.com/JTrain and feel better. We are sponsored, people. Roman. Talking about erectile dysfunction isn't easy. Usually we just brush it off or blame ourselves, saying things like, I lost my mojo, or we avoid it altogether with excuses like, I've had a long day at work, or sorry, honey, I'm just not feeling it. I'll say, yeah, I'm the excuses guy. I've been there. And I understand that. As a guy, we're just kind of prone to drink some water, rub some dirt on it. I get it. That's just kind of the way we are brought up. Be a man. And when you're talking about ED, it's a tough subject. And with Roman, it becomes easier to talk about it. With a healthcare professional who can prescribe real medication, it's simple, safe, and totally discreet. That's huge. So I think when we're thinking about taking care of ourselves, we kind of get bogged down in all the extracurriculars. I got to leave the house. I got to go wait in a waiting room. I got to go talk to someone. I got to reveal my innermost thoughts and the fact that I can't get it up. And I got to talk to a stranger. I don't even have a doctor. These are things that build up, and you end up just going, forget it. Forget it. I don't want to deal with it. And you put it off. And then all of a sudden, you're sleeping with someone who goes, hey, I'd like to have sex. I'd like to have what we had in the beginning of this. I'd love to, feel connected to you. And you're going, oh my God, I've been putting this off for years. So let's not put it off. With Roman, you can get a free online evaluation and ongoing care for ED. All from the comfort and privacy of your home. A healthcare professional will work with you to find the best treatment plan. If medication is appropriate, Roman will ship it to you with free 2-day shipping. The whole process is straightforward, simple, and discreet. Getting started is simple. Just go to getroman.com/JTrain and complete an online visit. Erectile dysfunction used to be tough to tackle, but now there's Roman. Complete an online visit today to connect with a healthcare professional and take care of it. So here's what you're going to do. Go to getroman.com/JTrain today. If approved, you'll get $15 off your first order of ED treatment. That's getroman.com/JTrain. Getroman.com/JTrain. JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. We're going to try and get a bunch in here, but I got a bunch. So listen, I want all of you to go follow Ellen DeGeneres' favorite comic, Joe Dombrowski. Go at Mr. D ×3. At Mr. D ×3, the number 3. It'll be all over my social media. Go, hilarious, awesome. I love everything he puts out. Go. Pen pal gal. Ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, so match with this guy at the beginning of quarantine, so we have been texting for 6 months at this point. He texts regularly, and we have good banter, and we seem to get along, flirt well textually. He's yet to ask me out since he tried the first time. It was the weekend of 3/14. I had a wedding, and then it shut down, and blames it on he's in the Navy and had to sign something saying that he wouldn't break quarantine. I also realize this may be BS. Is he just texting me to have someone to text? Obviously, these are weird times, but how do I eventually get a date out of this? I don't want to have a pen pal for eternity. I seem to always have this problem where dudes will text so much, but nothing ever comes from it. I like this guy. I think, she writes in parentheses, and wasn't want to give it a real shot, but don't want to be pushy. Appreciate your advice in advance. So Joe, what do you think about this situation? I actually... Like, his excuse is valid. Like, you couldn't disagree with, I'm in the Navy. We have a special set of rules to not infect the whole ship with COVID. Like, I could understand that excuse.
So I'm under the impression that he's still under that oath. Yes? Like, he can't...
I mean, this text, this email came 3 days ago. So I'm okay. Reading it, but I would assume, considering... Yeah. Or she's under the impression that this is still the rule.
So here's the first thing that comes to mind. Very fantastic excuse for a catfish to use.
I mean, the probably one of the best. Yeah.
So
the thing is, if the excuses and lies are all the best ones, live in the land of I can't disagree with you.
Absolutely. And this is at the top. Like, you cannot disagree. Like, it's very valid. But here's my thing. Even if it's true, homegirl's got to shit or get off the pot. Like, are you okay with never seeing this guy because of the situation? Or do you want to have him in the, like, I personally would date around still. Be like, this guy's great, but like, I kind of need a little bit of physical touch in my nevers.
I'm with you. And this is the problem with texting is it's automatically, because it's written, it is romanticized. It is the movie script that you guys are writing together.
You need to stop romanticizing about meeting a guy online during quarantine.
I mean, I'm going to use that music every single week now on TikTok. But what I would say to her is there's such a thing as being pushy. I agree with her. I don't want to be pushy. I wouldn't want to be pushy either. Mm-hmm. There's such a thing as being realistic. Hey, we've been texting for 6 months. What do you think the timeline is for us to actually meet? That would be what I would say to him. And like,
that's good.
And if he says, well, I don't know, and then I would say to him, and again, it's hard to do, but it's easy for us to say, but it's hard to do. I would say something along the lines of like, okay, right now, like, I'm down the emotional rabbit hole of our notebook, our notebook written relationship. When that thing happens, my phone is completely open to you, but I kind of have to like live a life here. I have to have my nethers touched by someone. I have to hug a human being. I have to feel like my life is moving on. I can't sit standing still, right?
That is literally it. And also, you need to be aware of the fact that you are potentially getting in the mist with a Navy person, which is great. I support it, but you need to be ready for the type of lifestyle that will be if this does work out. Either you're in or you're out.
That's the thing. I don't think people should be... there's a difference between being pushy and being practical. The practicality of it is like, hey, what's the schedule of your life? How do you expect to have a girlfriend? Because I'm looking for a boyfriend. And I don't think when you ask that, I understand the reason not to is like you're afraid of losing, but you're losing something you don't have right now. You don't have anything. And if you're not saying to him, hey man, like I'm having fun texting with you, but I need more than that. And I need to know like what the plan, just say, what's your plan? How do you see this moving forward? And just stop. And let's see what he writes out. If it's, hey, they just said another month. Okay, maybe you can go another month. But I would even say at that point, that's perfectly fine. But right now I need to remove myself. I'm here for you. The phone is open for you. But we got to stop texting until we can actually meet.
You're a friggin' prophet.
JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. Here with Joe Dombrowski at Mr. D times 3. Number 3. It's all over my social media. Go follow immediately. Also, love his TikTok. Go right now. Ex-boyfriend is playing Instagram games. Jared, longtime listener, thanks for all the laughs. Looking forward to seeing you in person again, hopefully soon. I have a question about an ex-boyfriend of mine who seems to be playing Instagram games with me. We broke up over 4 years ago, and it was messy. He cheated on me and then ended up getting engaged to that girl, but the engagement has since ended. We didn't talk much after the breakup. He blocked me on all forms of social media and never communicated once he became engaged. Last week, he requested to follow me on Instagram. I accepted, but didn't follow back. I noticed today that him following me was no longer under my notification section, and then when I tried to search him, he didn't come up, so I assume I was blocked. Any idea why he would request to follow me only to block me a few days later? I have a boyfriend, and that's clear on my Instagram, so I wonder if he saw I'm not single and blocked me. Even if I'm not single, isn't blocking me a bit extreme? I'm curious about the thought process guys have when doing these kinds of things. So what do you think?
I gotta be honest. I
Sure.
gotta tell you, like, everyone is lying if you say that you haven't wondered what an ex is up to. You wonder what an ex is.
Yes.
You devoted so much time of your life to this one person. Later on, you're gonna wonder. Like, I have this one ex who's like kaka cuckoo, like out there now.
Mm-hmm.
Jared, literally, they're. I don't know if I'm okay with saying this or not. They're now an OnlyFans person.
Ooh, they've made the leap.
And that's fascinating.
Yes, of course. You want to know what are they putting out there. That's the reality of all this internet / dating. This center of the Venn diagram of like social media and dating. This is the reality, is that it is so human to be curious about maybe not the life that you missed out on, but it's more what's going on with that person that I know in an intimate way.
Exactly. And that's what's happening to Homegirl right now.
Yeah,
he's
I
just
agree
curious.
with you.
He wants to know what you're up to. He spent part of his life with you as well. He's just curious, right? So here's my question to Homegirl. Why do you care? Like, it's not,
Well,
don't let that shit bother you.
As human as it is to wonder is as human as it is for her to be like, how, you know, I think what she needs to do is check herself on one thing. Even if I'm not single, isn't blocking me a bit extreme? No. They're not blocking you. They're blocking their curiosity.
They're blocking themselves from you.
We are all the star of our own movie. We are all super worried about how we look. It's not about you. You didn't offend him because you had a boyfriend. He went to your account. You let him in. He looked around. He said, "Oh, boyfriend here? I guess this isn't where I'll get the easy fuck out since my engagement ended." And I walked away and I blocked it so I wouldn't be tempted to do it again. That's what it is.
Bada boom.
To me, it's actually healthier that he blocked you, because it's let me get the cookies out of the house. Let me, like, I don't want to eat them, so I'm not going to keep them in the pantry. That is what the block is. A personal. It is about personal preservation. It is not about you. The block is about that person trying to get themselves straight and trying to get themselves on the road towards not bothering you. And so I understand. I don't think what she's saying is crazy. I just think you have to like go, "Hey, mirror, bring over the mirror." It's not about me.
100%.
It's about them.
100%.
JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. Here with Joe Dabrowski at Mr. D times 3. Go. Okay, this is a little bit longer.
Are we going to save it for the?
No, I think this is worth us doing.
All right.
Calling out my non-boyfriend for disappearing after a year, quote unquote, together. Do we understand that title?
We do.
Calling out my non-boyfriend for disappearing after a year, quote unquote, together. Okay. Long story short, but it looks like long story long. I've been seeing this guy for almost a year. We met last fall in New York City, spent about 4 months apart during COVID, but spoke weekly on the phone, then reconnected in the city in August. Okay? So fall dating, they 4 months apart because of COVID, spoke weekly on the phone, reconnected in August once they probably both came back to the city. I get it. Though we went on dates and never did late night hookups, I would say things were casual because we never officially labeled it. We spent all of August together, and honestly, it was an amazing month. I started to develop deeper feelings for him. Here's where things get messy. I decided to leave NYC when my lease was up on September 1st. So this came a day ago. Oh, my email's doing that weird thing where it's like, reminder, you got this 3 days ago. So this came a day ago. Okay, so okay. So reconnected the city. Here's where things get messy. I decided to leave NYC when my lease was up on September 1st to live in San Diego for the rest of the year. I let him know about my decision a while back and told him I wanted to stay in touch while I'm gone. He agreed. Before I left, he also told me how much he would miss me and have to adjust to me being gone. One thing to note is that I saw he was using dating apps in August. I saw notifications pop up on his phone. Fast forward to now. I'm in California. Haven't heard from him since our last day together in New York almost 2 weeks ago. I know I could reach out to him, but I really hoped he would check in to see how I'm adjusting. I feel pretty let down and hurt that he hasn't reached out to me. It just shows me that he doesn't actually care about me, and I feel pretty stupid/embarrassed. At the same time, I understand he may have wanted to cut things off. I just wish he would have told me that. I am debating whether I simply accept that he wasn't right for me and let it go, or call him out for being an asshole. If I do call him out, I drafted the message I plan to send. What do you think I should do? Any advice would be super appreciated. So we're going to read the draft. It is as long as the email. If this was sent over text, it would be 3 scrolls. So, I mean, get ready. This is their draft. And listen, we're laughing because we both have drafted text. We understand. Everyone out there has drafted a text, sent it to a friend, and said, "What do you think?" And the friend has gone, "Dude, this is 7 scrolls." Like, let's make it. But I live based on the motto. My motto in life, at the moment, and for the last few years, or for the last 10 years of doing comedy, is we write to edit. You write so that you can edit. There's no finished drafts. We are all doing experiences to be better for the next experience. So let's start by saying that. I'm going to read the message. You ready?
Hit me.
Hey, I've really missed you. Okay. Hey, I've really missed you, but I felt your... Let's play some classical music. Can we get some... Shelby, can you hit us with some sad music for her sad text? Okay, ready? Hey, I've really missed you, but I felt your silence since I left. I know I could have reached out first, but I thought you might check in on me to see how I'm doing and adjusting. I feel hurt and let down that you never did, especially since I felt like we became so close in August. I'm second-guessing a lot of things you said to me, like when you agreed on staying in touch and told me you'd miss me. I hate to assume the worst, but my gut is telling me you just said the things I wanted to hear, so I'd stick around and sleep with you until I left. If that's the case, that makes me feel used and discarded and like you didn't respect me, even just as a friend. To have an uncomfortable but honest conversation about what you wanted. I think I started to care about you more than on a casual level, and I take responsibility for not being more honest with you and myself about that. Having some space to think logically, it's clear to me that we were on different pages. I just wish we both had been more honest. I'm not sending this to yell at you. I just had to call you out and get it off my chest. End scene.
I have 3 things to say.
Please.
Number 1, I am alarmed by how the email to you sounds like it was written than Edgar Allan Poe, who wrote the draft text. That.
That's the thing. One felt the email into the podcast felt her.
Yep.
And then the text to him felt very, very written, very classical.
Very Telemundo.
Yes, but I felt your silence since I left.
That's my number 2.
That's
my number 2. I felt your silence since you left. Who are you? Danielle Steele? Stop. Cut the shit. I'm not doing it. Here's the third thing. That's a fucking phone call. If these are the words we're trying to say, that is a phone call. Girl, read this back to yourself out loud. And this is deep. This is some real ass shit.
I could read this in a different accent and it would make sense.
Oh, this is an audition.
Hi, I've really missed you, but I've felt your silence since I left. I know I could have reached out first, but I thought you might check in on me to see how I'm doing and adjusting. I feel hurt. I could see a quill with a candlelight.
And that's the B-roll. The B-roll.
Yeah. I feel hurt and let down that you never did, especially since I feel like we became so close in August. I'm second-guessing a lot of the things you said to me, like when you agreed on staying in touch and told me you'd miss me. I hate to assume the worst, but my gut is telling me you just said the things I wanted to hear, so I'd stick around and sleep with you until I left. You know, like it does have that.
It's the quill. I'm picturing the old wood-burning fireplace.
Yes,
you zoom in on the window, there's snow falling. Like that.
It is such... Right. Again, we've all been here where you take yourself a little too seriously. You kind of are looking for the most poetic things to say so that there's no holes in your armor, so to speak. I think also she wrote one thing specifically in her message that he won't agree with, whether she thinks it or not, is to say, I hate to assume my worst, but my gut is telling me you just said the things I wanted to hear, so I'd stick around and sleep with you until I left.
I don't like that, and I don't believe it either, even though I don't know these people. I feel like, girl, he wanted to sleep with you. He has been sleeping with you. He liked sleeping with you, so we can't hold him against wanting to sleep with you again before you left, because, girl, look into the mirror. We're at the mirror, and you wanted that dick too. I did.
I mean, but also, no one wants to have sex. I understand what she's saying. No one wants to have sex with someone that they felt didn't want to have sex with them, or that we're doing it under false pretense. I think he thought he was being a gentleman. I think, I think he doesn't see it the way she does. I think he's saying, well, what am I going to do? Break up with her if let's say he breaks up with her 2 weeks before that, she's going to go, and 2 weeks before I'm leaving? Like, that could happen. So, like, I'm saying, like, it's a no-win for him. To him, he's like, I do like her. I'm enjoying our time together. This end date is approaching. I'm sure he would think, like, I do agree with her with, like, dude, fucking text, show a little effort. But, like, I think for him, he was like, no, we're going to ride this out to the end because this is someone I do like, but I do have my out for when this relationship ends built in. I think the minute you don't have to deal with consequence is when you act like more of an asshole. He has no consequences. She's across the country, so he's sitting there. There's no, it isn't gentlemanly of him to just not text or not call. But I agree with her anger there, but I do think that the idea that he was like, I just need some fucking until the first. Like, I don't think that's... I empathize with him on that side of things. I don't think that was his goal.
But you agree with me too that this message is meant to be read by her as a phone call, not the text. Don't text this.
I think it should be a phone call, and the phone call needs to be boiled down to, I'm hurt that you would just kind of just disappear after I left and let it go. That to say the other stuff is stuff that he'll try to disagree with her on. Because he doesn't feel that way. He and you can't tell someone how to feel. She feels hurt and let down. And here's the other thing. Where she does have to look in the mirror is with where was this relationship going? How would you want it? To me, this is the breakup text. To me, she needs to break up with him. She has to let him know that, like, hey, if he had played it differently, maybe this keeps up over time. They make a trip. Maybe she tries to say, hey, why don't you come here? And it kind of gets elongated. Like, to me, I think this is like kind of a favor to her. She knows it's over. She knows he's not going to be making the trip across country to visit her on a weekend. So I would, to her, if I'm her, I send a text saying, hey, we're done. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole emotionally that this will produce if we do a trip. Like, if I'm her, I don't want him on a guy's trip to San Diego and being like, I'll stay an extra couple days, and then her getting caught up with it again.
Yep.
That's what I would be most protective of, because guys love keeping options. We love having women that could be produce fruit in other places that might not have been fruitful before. So I think, like, if I was to give her advice, it's like, end it, because he doesn't he doesn't even care enough to send a text to make sure you're doing okay. But also, if you're going to send it, your text should be about ending it and letting him know. And also, another thing I wouldn't say, I just had to call you out.
Oh,
this isn't. She wrote, I'm not saying this to yell at you, but I just had to call you out and get it off my chest. No. This is about calling you out. Like, to who? Like,
it's not about winning. It's not about winning.
It's not about winning. Exactly. This is about letting someone know that you are not an option of his in the future. You are not someone he can text in the future to, like, hang out, because you're deeply offended that he would not even care enough to text you to make sure that you've well adjusted after spending that much time together. That would be where the text goes. I think this is...
I second that motion.
The J-Train podcast is brought to you by Upstart. Upstart. During these economically turbulent times, everyone is looking for a way to feel more financially secure. If you're still throwing money at a high-interest credit card every month, it's time to check out Upstart, the revolutionary lending platform that knows you're more than just your credit score. Find out how low your Upstart rate can be today. I will say, I love what Upstart's doing, because this is a free way to save you money. Because what they're going to do is you're going to look at whatever debt you have. If the rate on your debt is higher than the Upstart rate, then you can make some moves. Now you can make some financial decisions to help your life. This is the perfect sponsor, because they're helping me, supporting the podcast, and it's a way to help you. So if you are dealing with debt, this is a nice little homework assignment where you can take the rates that you're paying and compare it to the new rates, because Upstart goes beyond the traditional credit score. They actually reward you based on your education and job history in the form of a smarter rate. Skip the bank. It's completely online. Loans from $1,000 to $50,000. They make it fast, simple, and easy to check your rate, since it's just a soft pull. And this is an important part. This is what I would say this is their special sauce as a company. Since it's just a soft pull, it won't affect your credit score. It's not going to affect your credit score. This is great. So the hard pull happens if you accept your rate. The best part, once the loan is approved and accepted, most people get their funds the very next business day, the next day. Over 400,000 people have used Upstart to pay off credit cards or meet their financial goals. Free yourself from the burden of high-interest credit card debt by consolidating everything into one monthly payment with Upstart. I think that's a fantastic homework assignment. And I call it a homework assignment because this stuff is annoying. Nobody wants to deal with their debt. Nobody wants to deal with money issues. It's, whatever day of the week you're listening right now, this is your time to get away from that stuff. But write this on the list, make it a part of your day, and check it out. See why Upstart has a 4.9 out of 5 rating on Trustpilot. Hurry to upstart.com/JTrain. I'm going to say it again. Upstart.com/JTrain to find out how low your Upstart rate is. Checking your rate only takes a few minutes. Again, a few minutes to help your life, and won't affect your credit rate. Only takes a few minutes. This is huge. That's upstart.com/JTrain, upstart.com/JTrain. Here's the part the lawyers make me say. Your loan amount will be determined based on your credit card income and certain other information provided in your loan application. Not all applicants will qualify for the full amount. JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. Let's do one more. Is that okay?
Totally.
Listen, everyone go follow Joe Dombrowski. So funny, so fantastic. At Mr. D times 3. Number 3, it's all over my social media. Go right now. Okay, so I'll give you the choice of title. You ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. How to break up with someone with anxiety. Keeping his options open. Help, I love my boyfriend. I don't love the dog. My college hoe days are making my post-grad dating life awkward. Boyfriend following amateur IG model. Do we have? I think the hoe one.
These got great. This
know,
literally
right?
was like dog. This that. I gotta go. I was tempted to do the amateur IG model, but I do have to go with the former college hoe days.
Right. The IG. I know where that one's going. This one, I'm trying to wonder. Let's do the hoe days. I know I gave you the choice, but I chose for I think.
No, I made it. That was my choice. We're
good. So ready? My college hoe days are making my post grad dating life awkward. Okay. I'm recently re-entering the dating world after a quarantine breakup ended my 3.5-year relationship. I've been hitting up the apps and realized that my past college hookups are making it difficult for me as I start dating in my current city. I graduated from a large SEC school 3 years ago and was in Greek life. Okay, so she's 3.5 years out. So that means the guy she dated from college was the recent breakup, if it's 3.5 years ago. And she was in 3 years ago at an SEC school, and she was in Greek life. During my college days, I hooked up with my fair share of guys and often hooked up with guys in fraternities. I currently live in a large southern city where many alumni from my university live. I'm finding as I search the dating apps, I see guys from my university quite frequently. I recently went on a few dates with a guy who went to my alma mater. I had previously hooked up with some guys in his fraternity. I only went on a couple dates with this guy before it ended, so the topic never came up. But it got me thinking, how would I address this if we were to have continued dating? He obviously wasn't close friends with the guys I had hooked up with, but they clearly knew each other through the fraternity. Plus, I can see my past hookups are mutual followers with him on Instagram. Due to the number of guys I've hooked up with in the past, this situation is likely to happen again. So tell me, Papa JT.
Damn.
Good for her. How would you approach this if you were me? Is this something I should be upfront about in dating, or should I just not say anything at all? What would a guy think if he knew that I had hooked up with a few people he had known? I don't want to seem like a slut by admitting that I've hooked up with guys he knows, but I also don't want it to come out later and be weird that I never mentioned it. Totes preach. So I understand her issue, especially the timing of it all. 3 years out of college, you're in a town that a lot of people from your college moved to. This is completely normal. This is completely normal anxiety to have. Let me just give her some solace in the idea that this isn't the craziest thing in the world. This is I see her story tracks, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say to her? What do you think? Do you bring it up right away, or do you?
I gotta tell her first of all about my personal experience. Okay.
Please.
So my partner and I Morgan, we've been together for 5 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm from Detroit. He's from North Carolina. We met in Detroit. He was doing grad school in the city, right? And that's how we met, right? So he's in my territory where I've spent my entire life, right?
Yeah.
So then literally all my prior hookups, my ex-boyfriends, everything are now in the city where we live together, but I'm never around any of his, okay? So, this is the best relationship I've ever been into. And one of the things we don't do is we don't talk about past, sex, and we really don't talk about past partners either, and it just kind of makes it easier for us because it's what's it matter? We're focusing on the now, we're focusing on the us, and that's what's important. But I don't lie to him. So when we go home and we're at the bars in Detroit, there are people usually there who I have engaged in sexual intercourse with, and you know what I mean? And I don't say anything. I don't say anything. A lot of these guys, it turned into friendship and things too, who I am actually friends with still. It's just we don't talk about it. But every once in a while, the curious one will see me again, and they'll be not know that I'm in a relationship maybe, or they think that I'm going to still do it, or maybe they think we're in an open relationship, and they'll give the sex eyes. It's happened a few times. And Morgan will be like, did you hook up with that guy? And I'll be like, yeah. And it's no big deal because he asked, I was honest. We know this is what's up. And it's just, we're mature adults about it. Mind you, this is we had been at an undergrad for quite some time when all this was starting to happen. But I personally don't feel like there's a need to be talking about that and bringing that stuff up until there is a reason to, or somebody asks. If they ask,
I don't think that, I think she's at that where she is 3 years out of college. This is the jump from immaturity.
23, something
she's
like that?
25, probably 25.
Or 25? Yeah, okay.
Let's say she's 25. 25 is that leap from oh yeah, we used to fuck in college to yeah, that's someone from the past. I think I understand her anxieties are, a lot of them have to do with the age that she's at, because you're hanging around college people still, you still have those you're still hanging out with the college group a little bit, you're going on trips together and always talking about old stuff, and it's people speak in that old way. Go for it.
Dad, if you're still listening, I was kidding about everything I just said. I'm actually a virgin. And if I do ever decide to have sex, it will probably be with a woman. If you're still listening.
That's
Continue.
Right. Sorry, Mr. Domorowski. So but I would say that I agree with everything you said. I think, like, here's what she's living in. She's living in the words of her college days. Oh, we hooked up. Oh, we used to fuck. Even she uses the word slut, which I'm not, like, I don't use that word, but she's thinking in 20-year-old mind. Yeah. I think she needs to change her language. Okay? She has to realize that this isn't awkward, just the way you just said it with your partner. It's like, hey, did you guys used to hook up? Yeah, we used to hook up. There's a classy way to say things when they come up, and it will be natural and fine. If you're dating someone who is in a fraternity with someone and they go, how do you know this person? Yeah, I actually used to date that guy for a little bit in college. And that's it.
We used to see each other.
We used to see each other. We used to see each other in college. Yeah, we kind of hooked up once, but it was really it. And I think it's not just, we banged. It's give the full feeling of the story. I always think, like, if my girlfriend brings up, oh yeah, that guy and I used to date. It kind of ended this way. I ask more questions. How did it end? How did you guys meet? That always makes people feel more comfortable, because then you get the full story. You know what? I actually got really drunk at their formal, and it was like we made out once. It was kind of crazy. You know what I mean? Like, the minute you go into the story and you give the context to the situation, everyone feels more comfortable and it becomes more relatable. Mm-hmm. You have a past. He has a past, whoever this he might be, because she's just saying hypothetically. And you're right. That's okay. And if you didn't have a past, you wouldn't be the person that they wanted to date today.
Oh,
so
dude,
every experience made you into the person you are today, and that person's great and wonderful, and be great and wonderful for someone. So I think I think you dig into these conversations when they come up, when they come naturally. You dig into them honestly, classy. Make sure your languaging is right and it's not to embarrass anybody. That's the other thing. Fuck that dude. He has a small dick when we fucked. It's like, okay, I know that you'll be saying that about me one day.
Right.
So I think I think I always, again, with exes, I have positive experience with all of my exes, but I would say there's no reason to speak negatively. You can be positive. Yeah, he was a good guy, but we hooked up once and I actually got too drunk at the formal, or he got too drunk that one night and we kind of just never talked again. It kind of phased out. Like, these are all kind of ways to talk about it in a way that isn't too graphic and too and again, no guy's going to end it with someone they love because they hooked up with one of their friends in college.
Right.
So they're going to end it for other reasons, and it will feel like that's the reason, because that's a better excuse than the reason that we're not the match. That's the easier excuse.
And a great thing to say, too, if it does come up and he does ask, a great mature thing to say would be like, yeah, it happened, but it didn't work out for a reason. Yeah, it didn't work out. Like, yeah. It's just, it didn't work out. And there's a reason why you're with who you're with right now.
Totally. JTrainPodcast@gmail.com, JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. Joe Domorowski, this is fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. This was awesome to be on your podcast. Thank you.
Been a pleasure. Everyone go follow Joe at Mr. D ×3. He has a podcast, Social Studies. That's what it's called. I have been a guest. I loved every second of it. Go, go, go. It's called Social Studies. What day does it come out? What day of the week?
Mondays.
Beautiful. So Social Studies is the podcast at Mr. D ×3. Joe, thank you so much. I am Jared Freid. We are here Mondays and Thursdays every single week. JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. Go, go, go. Send in your emails. We'll be back next episode. Boom. Don't forget to like the video you just watched. I have many more. Subscribe to the channel right now. Like and subscribe, like and subscribe, like and subscribe, you fool. There's even a bell you can click to. Now you've got your week set Monday through Friday. I'm here for you.